Alright, so you guys already know how I feel about cars. And if you don't know, I hate them. Ew. Gross. But you also know how I feel about Twisted Metal. And if you don't know, I love it. It's great. Mwah. The first game got me hooked, but this one kept me obsessed. And all they had to do to achieve that was take everything that worked from the first game and turn that dial all the way up. I'm talking bigger, louder, faster, and somehow even darker. Okay, you know what? Forget all this intro stuff. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Twisted Metal 2. Development on Twisted Metal 2 actually began before the first game even hit store shelves, largely because Single Track was already contracted to make multiple titles for Sony. But with that commitment in place and a clear sense of what they wanted to improve, the team wasted no time jumping into the sequel. Now, the first Twisted Metal wasn't just the debut of a new franchise, it was also the first game most of the team had ever worked on. They were new to game development, and while that inexperience gave the game a kind of raw, unfiltered energy, it also meant that they were still finding their footing. The end result was something undeniably unique, but you could feel them reaching for ideas that didn't always land. This time they had a solid foundation and a clear understanding of what worked and what didn't, and they were determined to push every part of the game further. Everything was on the table for improvement. Gameplay, level design, visuals, the story. This wasn't just about making a sequel, it was about finally delivering the game they had envisioned from the very beginning.
I'm really excited to basically put in a lot of the things that we didn't do and improve on a lot of the things that really sucked in Twisted Metal 1.
One of the first targets for improvements was the controls. Since development started before the first game's release, they only had feedback from focus testers who, for reasons I covered in the first video, absolutely hated it. The team already knew the controls weren't perfect, and that criticism confirmed it. Early on, they kicked around some ideas that were interesting.
You know, we went so far as to say, let's forget them being cars, let's make them hover cars because they'll be easier to control.
We talked about hovering cars and cars with insect legs, you know, that could climb up buildings and things like that.
Let's make them insects because insects don't move as fast and they can't get caught on objects.
But once the reviews rolled in, they realized a complete overhaul wasn't needed. People were having fun despite the flaws, so instead of starting from scratch, they refined what was there. Tighter steering, more precise handling, and one of the biggest changes was the ability to turn without having to build momentum first. The goal wasn't to reinvent the wheel, but to fine-tune it, making the game feel more satisfying to play. With the controls improved, the team turned their attention to the visuals. By this point, they had way more experience with the PlayStation hardware, and it showed. Vehicle models are more detailed, textures are sharper, effects are flashier, and the environments feel more expansive and dynamic. You know, and even with those visual improvements, this game still looks rough. But just like the first game, I think the roughness adds to its charm. Level design saw a major upgrade as well. The game featured more complex geometry and better use of verticality with ramps, rooftops, destructible objects, and vertical layers that changed how each map played. You had more freedom to move, more places to hide or to set up ambushes, and more environmental hazards to navigate. Each stage brought something unique to the table, and not just how it looked, but how it changed the way you played. For me personally, I think one of the biggest and best improvements of this game is its narrative. The first game had set up Calypso's deadly tournament and the One Wish Granted hook, but it was little more than chaotic background noise for the carnage. But this time the characters had clearer goals, bigger personalities, and backstories that actually made their place in the tournament matter. The humor is still here, and it's just as loud and absurd as it was from the first game, but there's like something sinister threading through it this time around. Like some of the humor had soured into something colder, like the kind of comedy that smiles while it cuts you open. That sharper tone didn't just live in the writing, it bled into the game's presentation as well. Gone was the use of real actors to portray these characters. Instead, Twisted Metal 2 embraced a gritty, colorful 2D comic book art style that shaped how every part of the game looked and felt. It let the developers push the absurdity and the cruelty further without the awkward limitations of low-budget live action. The exaggerated hand-drawn look was surreal and wildly stylized, but just grounded enough to give the world a grimy sort of believability. From the smallest tweak to the boldest idea, everything led to November 18th, 1996, when Twisted Metal 2 hit shelves and became an instant hit with fans and critics. The mix of memorable characters and improved gameplay made it feel like a true step forward in the series. It quickly became one of the best-selling titles on the console, cementing Twisted Metal as one of PlayStation's flagship franchises of the late 90s. Even with its rough edges, the game's chaotic charm and addictive multiplayer made it a staple at sleepovers for years to come. In terms of gameplay, fans of the original will feel right at home with Twisted Metal 2. You pick from one of 12 contestants in this demolition derby deathmatch where you try to blow up every car until you're the last man standing. That's it. No points, no laps, no mercy. Just pure vehicular carnage. Now the controls are exactly the same from the last game. Up is forward, down is reverse, left, right, circle, L2. Look, you get it. You got it. It's a video game. You know, you push buttons and you do stuff. Now weapons are where we start to see some real changes. For starters, the machine guns on every car no longer overheat like they did in the first game, but they also deal less damage, which, I don't know, feels like a fair trade-off. A number of missiles from the first game were scrapped entirely, with the sequel consolidating everything into 3 missile types. It's a leaner system, but it keeps the action focused. You got your fire missiles, which are the most common. Not too powerful, but great for peppering enemies at close to mid-range. Homing missiles, which are great for hitting enemies from a distance, and power missiles, the heavy hitters. Landing a direct hit with these will take a big chunk out of your opponent's health bar. Now, some newer additions include napalm. It lobs a fiery blast that can set enemies on fire, dealing some really good damage over time. They get too close and you'll end up barbecued right along with them. Remote bombs give you full control over the battlefield. You can plant them in choke points or high traffic areas, then wait for the perfect moment to blow an enemy sky high. And then there's lightning, which is a bit of a weird one. It only shows up on certain maps, and those maps have a specific spot tied to it. Trigger it and a bolt of lightning will strike anyone nearby, including you, so make sure you're not in the splash zone when you use it. Also, instead of health stations from the first game, healing is now handled through health pickups scattered around the map. Some of the sillier weapons from the last game, like the tire spikes, the catapult, and the oil slick, are gone. But don't worry, the chaos lives on. Now we've got the ricochet bomb. Once fired, it'll bounce around the map, gaining power with every bounce until it finally smacks into someone. This thing doesn't discriminate either. Fire one off carelessly and you might end up eating your own bomb. One of the more interesting additions in Twisted Metal 2 is something called advanced attacks. These moves push the game even closer to feeling like a fighting game with cars that the team described it as. They require specific directional inputs to pull off, just like special moves in Street Fighter. For example, pressing up right on the D-pad activates a temporary shield. Older weapons like the freeze missile and the landmines have been reworked into these abilities. But there is a catch. How often you can perform these moves depend on your energy bar, which functions a lot like a special meter from fighting games, forcing you to be smart about when and how to spend it. Progress is still handled through a good old-fashioned password system. Just like in the first game, at the beginning of each stage or when you pause it on that stage, you're given a password that allows you to continue on that stage. But this time around, they changed things up just a bit. Now each character has their own unique password for every stage. It's a small tweak that, on one hand, kind of artificially inflates the length of the game, but at the same time it adds an extra layer of commitment to your run. You're locked into your choice in a way that makes the journey feel more personal. If you want to see that specific character's story all the way through, you gotta stick with them from start to finish, code by code. Multiplayer makes its return, and it's bigger and better than before. We've actually got 2 different modes this time. First, we've got Challenge Match, which is the classic head-to-head showdown where it's just you and another player locked in a battle of skill. Then we've got the real standout, Co-op Tournament. This mode lets you and a buddy actually run through the entire single-player campaign together. This was the kind of game that defined late-night couch co-op sessions with your friends. 2 controllers, 1 screen, endless fun. For a game as wild as Twisted Metal 2, having a partner in the destruction didn't just make it more fun, it made it unforgettable. So for the story, I'm gonna let the opening cutscene set the stage for us.
My name is Calypso. Exactly 1 year ago on Christmas Eve, my Twisted Metal contest destroyed the City of Angels. Down below, life has come to a halt as survivors struggle to stay alive.
Calypso! Calypso, what have you done? What have you done?
With the city awash in flame, nothing left to destroy. I face a dilemma. Where will this year's Twisted Metal contest take place? 14 of the world's best combat drivers have already been chosen, ready to battle to the death in hopes of becoming the victor and claiming whatever prize their brave hearts desire. But where will the contest be held? Oh, the world will be my battleground. Paris, Hong Kong, even Antarctica. There will be no safe zones this year, no places to hide. In the next 24 hours, the entire world will know my name. They will see my beautiful work of art firsthand. No one will be safe. I promise you that. Good luck, driver. Welcome to Twisted Metal.
I was 7 or 8 years old when I first watched this, and it straight up scared the shit out of me. The apocalyptic backdrop, the unsettling tone, the wanton carnage, this was the kind of stuff that fueled my nightmares when I was younger. Just bad shit happening for no reason. And on top of that, you've got this beautiful, colorful 2D artwork that has you thinking Saturday morning cartoon, but in reality, it's more sketchy bootleg VHS tape your parents hid under their bed. That mix of playful on the outside and terrifying on the inside stuck with me, and it's a big reason why the game felt so different from the last game. But what really drove that home was the way that Calypso himself was reimagined. The wild, frizzy hair and heavily charred face are gone, replaced by a sleeker look with straight hair framing a face marked only by faint scars. He's also far more charming this time around and brought fully to life by Mel McMurran's incredible voice work.
I always knew you would be the one to figure it out. I will grant your wish, but please, feel free to come back and visit us anytime. For the rest of your friends will be here for quite a while.
Every line he delivers drips with this sinister charisma. Smooth but menacing. Calm but brimming with malice. It's a kind of performance that makes you lean in and listen, even as it unsettles you. Just like in the first game, the winner of Twisted Metal is promised any wish they desire. But with Calypso, nothing is ever that simple. His wishes are always of the be careful what you wish for variety, granting exactly what you asked for in the cruelest way possible. Sometimes he'll hand you exactly what you asked for, but twist it in a way that turns your dream into a nightmare. Other times he'll simply step aside and let your own wish destroy you, and every now and then he grants one with no twist at all, just to keep you guessing. Take Captain Roberts, one of the contestants from the first game. While Twisted Metal doesn't really deal in strict canon endings, we do know he won the last tournament. His wish? A world free of Twisted Metal. And Calypso delivered by launching Roberts into space.
Calypso! No!
A wish granted, but at a cost only Calypso would see as fair. Stories like these are what sharpen the game's dark appeal. Every driver comes in chasing something, revenge, redemption, power, or just pure chaos. And that desperation is what makes the lineup so memorable. There are 12 drivers available right out the gate, plus 2 hidden characters we can unlock with a code. The roster is a mix of the familiar and the new. You've got a few returning faces from the first game, some fan-favorite vehicles now driven by entirely new characters, and a handful of brand new riders joining the fray. Let's take a closer look at who's strapping in for this ride. Roadkill. Driven by Captain Spears in the first game, it's now driven by Marcus Kane. Marcus has been living in his car for the past 10 years, penniless, friendless, and on the brink of sanity. This homeless bum is convinced that the entire world is one horrific nightmare. If he wins Twisted Metal, sanity will be his prize and the key to going home. Twister. Driven by Amanda Watts. Amanda Watts has a deadly obsession with high-speed vehicles. Bored with everyday cars, she is always searching for a faster ride. If she wins Twisted Metal, she'll ask Calypso to send her racing past the speed of light, but what will she discover when she gets there? Axel. Driven by Axel. A prisoner in his own vehicle, Axel has roamed the world looking for an escape. A noble man pushed to the brink, Axel will destroy anyone who prevents his quest for freedom. But true freedom means confronting the man who placed him in the machine. Mr. Slam. Driven by Simon Whittlebone, who looks an awful lot like Michael Douglas's character William Foster from Fallen Down. A disgruntled architect fired from his job, Simon wants to win Twisted Metal for the power to build a structure so grand that it will stretch to the gates of heaven. But what will be lurking behind those gates? Shadow. Driven by Mortimer. A keeper of lost souls, Mortimer helps those who met an untimely death get revenge on their killers. But this year he's carrying a very strange cargo that will not rest until Calypso has been taken out. Hammerhead. Driven by Dave and Mike in the first game, it's now driven by Mike and Stu. We don't really get confirmation if this is the same Mike from the first game or not, so it might be, might not be, who knows. Clueless and looking for excitement.
And chicks!
Mike and Stu are hoping to get the ultimate high when they win the contest. Outlaw 2. Driven by Carl Roberts in the first game, it's now driven by his sister, Jamie Roberts. Captain Roberts lost her brother to last year's contest. He was a good cop like her, but Calypso sent him spiraling off into a mysterious location. When she wins, she plans to find her brother and reunite her family. Warthog. Driven by Commander Mason in the first game, it's now driven by Captain Rogers, a highly decorated army captain who wants a second chance at life. If he wins the contest, he's asking Calypso for his youth back. What he gets instead will terrify even the bravest soldier. Mr. Grimm. Driven by Mr. Grimm. Mr. Grimm exists only to feed off the souls of the unweary. Intent on causing the end of the world, Mr. Grimm is helping Armageddon along by joining the tournament. Grasshopper. Driven by Krista Sparks. Krista Sparks is an underage driver who faked her age to join the tournament. She will stop at nothing to find her father, whom she believed dead for the last 10 years. When they meet face to face, sparks will fly. Thumper, driven by Bruce Cochran. Bruce has fought all his life for the dignity of his friends and family, but no matter how hard he fights, he can never win. This year, he's asking for revenge on all those who have kept him down, but what he gets is hell on earth. Spectre, driven by Scott Campbell in the first game, who was named after Scott Campbell from Singletrack, it's now driven by Ken Masters, which is kind of funny because that's the same name of a certain Street Fighter character, and his look and backstory kind of mirror Johnny Cage's from Mortal Kombat, so more of that fighting game parallel. Anyway, Ken is a man in search of popularity. He wants to be known and loved, but if he gets his fame, he'll find that there are worse things than being anonymous. Looking at this roster as a whole, Twisted Metal 2 feels like a major step up from the first game. In my last video, I compared the original cast to Attitude Era WWE rejects, and I meant that in the best way possible. Loud, brash, and rough around the edges. But here the lineup carries a different energy. The characters feel more distinct, more theatrical. You still have your street-level bruisers like Thumper and Hammerhead, but most of the roster feels like they've been ripped straight from urban legends and nightmare folklore. There's a man literally fused into a machine, a keeper of lost souls ferrying the dead, and even the Grim Reaper himself. This right here is a collection of nightmares behind the wheel, each more unhinged than the last. For this playthrough, I'm going to be using Axel as our main driver, and there are a few reasons why. First, it seems like they really wanted him to be the main character, at least for this game. He's front and center on the box art, and the game manual even gives him his own dedicated section to flesh out his backstory. Second, and let's be honest here, he's just cool as hell. Axel isn't driving a car, he is the car. His arms are fused into two massive wheels, making him the human axle of his own vehicle. Also, look at his back. My man's rocking that Yujiro Hama demon bag. And he also kind of caked up. What was they doing giving him all that cake?
Double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon.
Since we'll be playing as Axel, let's go ahead and read a section from the game manual to get a clear picture of who he really is. It has been a year since the last Twisted Metal tournament, and sections of Los Angeles are still smoking. Citizens who thought they'd survive in the city's safety zones quickly learned that concrete and steel offered no protection from Calypso's demented contest. Twisted Metal has destroyed LA. My name is Axel. For 20 years, I have been trapped in my own vehicle, a prisoner stretched out, abandoned, and in constant agony. I have come to LA in search of Calypso, following the rumors that those who win Twisted Metal are granted anything they request. There is no greater prize than freedom, and when I win, I'll walk the world as a whole man, not this deformed creature. But Twisted Metal has moved on, and I find only the rotting corpse of a once great city. This year, the competition has gone global, to the roofs of New York, the open fields of Holland, and deep inside the winding subways of Hong Kong. Nothing will stop me from destroying my opponents and fulfilling my dream. I regret that I must kill to be free. Their deaths will not be fair, but neither is my life. Alright, nothing else needs to be said, so let's dive in. The tournament kicks off in the crumbling ruins of Los Angeles, a city still scarred from the chaos of the first game. The skyline is cracked and broken, smoke rises from destroyed buildings, and off in the distance, the iconic Hollywood sign looms over the devastation, waiting for you to blow it to pieces. The arena itself is wide and open, with a layout that almost feels like a racetrack. Long stretches of road loop around the map, with banked turns, tunnels, and raised freeways creating multiple layers of movement. It's very spacious, giving you room to maneuver, line up missiles, and really cut loose. But that openness does come at a price. You're always visible, always vulnerable, and fights tend to escalate fast. What makes this stage memorable is how much it teaches you without ever feeling like a tutorial. The open space gets you comfortable with movement, the corners and tunnels teach you how to use cover, and the destructible aspects of the map give you a taste of the environmental chaos the series is known for. It's big, but not overwhelming. Open, but still layered with strategy. The next map, and the first time the series ever takes us outside of the United States, well hell, outside of Los Angeles, throws us into Moscow. This stage ditches the open city streets for something far more claustrophobic and dangerous, an abandoned Soviet nuclear missile silo. Instead of sprawling roads and alleys, this stage is essentially a giant multi-tiered death pit. The arena itself is built like a massive octagonal shaft with ramps and platforms circling down toward the bottom. Health and weapon pickups are placed on the different tiers, but going for them often means exposing yourself to fire from all directions. It's a stage that punishes hesitation and rewards aggression. The standout feature here is just how destructible the map is. All 4 ramps can be destroyed, completely reshaping the arena. There's also a little Easter egg in here. There's a banner that you can set on fire with napalm. doing so will reveal a code that you can use in the multiplayer that unlocks a map from Jet Moto, another single-track game that was released a month before Twisted Metal 2. You remember Jet Moto, right? Racing on them little hoverbike thingies? No? Well, whatever. Paris is the first map in Twisted Metal 2 that really feels massive. Compared to the tighter arenas of Los Angeles and Moscow, Paris is sprawling, full of open plazas, twisting streets, and a surprising amount of verticality. The standout feature, of course, is the Eiffel Tower. Blast its base enough times and the whole thing collapses, scattering giant steel beams across the arena. The fallen pieces form ramps that open up new routes on the rooftops, completely changing how the map plays. There's an Easter egg on this map, which is the Mona Lisa, but in true Twisted Metal fashion, you can blast the painting with napalm to burn it away, revealing a hidden cheat code. The code is meant to unlock Suburbia, the map from the first game, for multiplayer, but it's wrong. The game displays it as up-down L1R1, when the real code is actually down-up L1R1. Paris feels like a real turning point for Twisted Metal 2. The Los Angeles and Moscow map feel like something that could exist in the first game. But Paris? This is where the sequel really shows its ambition. It's the kind of stage that could only exist in the sequel, built with the experience and confidence the team gained from making the original. Paris proved that Twisted Metal 2 wasn't just a bigger sequel, it was a smarter one, taking everything that worked before and building something more dynamic, more destructive, and far more memorable. Amazonia ditches the city streets entirely and throws us into the middle of a volcanic jungle. The stage is built over a massive pit of molten lava, with ancient temples and stone bridges holding up the battleground. The red glow of lava dominates everything, giving the map this constant sense of danger. From a gameplay perspective, Amazonia is all about risk and positioning, which means one wrong turn, one bad turbo boost, or one unlucky hit can send you plunging straight into the lava. Falling in doesn't instantly kill you, but it chews away at your health, making every slip costly. The tight pathways also create natural choke points, forcing you into head-on collisions and close-range brawls. Unlike other maps where the environment is just decoration, here it's the biggest hazard. Amazonia becomes a constant gamble between survival and aggression. Oh, and it doesn't stop there. Once we've defeated the other vehicles, we get one more challenge thrown at us.
Rising from the lava, weighing in at way too many tons of pure destruction, the former Twisted Metal champion, the demon tank himself, Minion!
He's back and he's ready to throw down. And you remember how tough he was in the last game. Okay, well, he's not as tough in this one. He can still soak up a ton of damage and deal it right back if you're careless, but compared to the unstoppable wall he was in the first game, this version of Minion feels a little more manageable. This is also the first game in the series where Minion is playable. He's one of the best characters in the game. Built like a tank, literally, hits like a nuke, and despite his massive size, he's shockingly fast. The code to unlock Minion,
L1 up, down, left,
is still seared into my brain from when I was a kid because younger me didn't want to play as anyone else. Not because he's the best in the game, which, didn't hurt, but because of how fucking cool he looks. His appearance is striking. Fiery red skin, horns jutting from his head, jagged fangs. He looks less like a competitor and more like something ripped straight from hell, which is exactly where he's from. See, when Twisted Metal 2 launched, a tie-in comic was released as well. It's essentially Calypso's origin story, and it is every bit as messed up as you would imagine. I'm not going to cover the whole comic, but at one point Calypso ends up in hell, where he comes face to face with Minion, where he actually outruns the demon. The feat impresses Satan so much that he cuts Calypso a deal. He can return to Earth, but only on the condition that he finds the world's best drivers, lures them into his tournament, and makes sure they die so they can keep Satan entertained, I guess, because apparently the devil just really likes watching demolition derbies. Anyway, Calypso took Minion's spot and he wants it back. I really appreciate that Minion is an actual character in the game and not just some bonus throw-in with no story or payoff. Whatever, after we defeat Minion, it's on to the next stage. If Amazonia tested your nerve with lava and tight bridges, New York throws you into a vertical nightmare. This stage takes place high above the city skyline with the battle raging across rooftops and skyscrapers, definitely reminiscent of the rooftop level from Twisted Metal 1. The map itself is made up of multiple rooftops connected by ramps and narrow ledges. Combat here is chaotic because you're constantly juggling the ever-present risk of falling. And it don't take much, you gonna be falling off them edges. This is New York City, so of course you can see the Statue of Liberty, and this is Twisted Metal, so of course you can fire missiles at it and watch it go through various stages of transformation. Another Easter egg on this map is a hidden cheat code, but the only way to find it is to drive straight off the rooftops, so you might accidentally stumble across it as you're falling off the fucking edge here. Down below, tucked away on the streets of New York, is the code that unlocks Sweet Tooth, driven by everyone's favorite agent of chaos, Needles Kane. Which is kind of wild because when you think of Twisted Metal, the first image that comes to mind is Needles Kane. He's the face of the franchise now, but here he's not even a part of the main roster. And even when you do unlock him, you can see that he isn't fully there yet. You know what I mean? This is the game that gives him his iconic flaming head, but even then, his look feels like a rough sketch of what he would eventually become. After the skyscrapers of New York, the tournament shifts gears and drops us into the icy depths of Antarctica. The battle takes place atop a massive glacier with a deep trench running down its middle. Like the streets of New York, slipping off the edge means instant death, but this area adds another twist. As the fight goes on, chunks of the glacier begin to crack and fall away, collapsing into the frozen abyss below. Every section that breaks off makes the arena smaller and smaller, forcing you into tighter spaces and riskier encounters. What starts as an open battlefield slowly transforms into a crumbling death trap. This map gave me hell. Like not when I was a kid, like now while I was playing through it to get this footage. Between the collapsing ice, the shrinking battlefield, and the AI acting like it's out for blood, this was hands down the stage that kept me stuck the longest. But honestly, I didn't mind. It also happens to be one of my favorite maps. I can't help it. I've always been a sucker for cold, icy environments in video games. After the icy cliffs of Antarctica, this game swings in the complete opposite direction, dropping us into the quiet farmlands of Holland. The stage is deceptively simple, mostly flat farmland broken up by 2 giant windmills, but that wide open space means there's nowhere to hide. Long-range missiles dominate here and you're almost always exposed, forcing you to stay moving. Destroying the windmills removes what little cover that existed on this map. Still, it's a surprisingly pretty map, one of the few places in the game that feels untouched by the tournament's destruction. The bright blue sky, the rolling green fields, the giant windmills slowly turning in the distance, it almost feels peaceful, like you've stumbled into a postcard instead of a war zone. And for a moment, we can almost forget the chaos around us. This is it, the 8th and final stage. By now, the game has thrown everything at us, and Hong Kong feels like a culmination of all that chaos. Open highways give way to narrow alleyways, mixing long stretches built for speed with tight corners that demand precision. At the center sits an open temple, an enclosed battlefield with multiple levels that invite chaos from every direction. You can launch attacks from above and use the open layout to bait enemies into crossfire. One of the last cheats in the game can be found on this stage. There's a train system that runs throughout the map, and if you track down one of the passing trains, you'll spot a code hidden on top of it. Entering it unlocks the rooftop stage from the first game, letting you relive the original's final stage in multiplayer. What makes Hong Kong shine is its rhythm. One moment you're flying around the outer grid at high-speed chases, the next you're jammed into tight corridors of the temple, unloading weapons in a desperate bid to get out alive. It's fast, it's messy, and it feels like a city literally collapsing under the weight of Calypso's tournament. After taking down the last opponent, we can finally breathe. No more rockets flying by, no more car crashes, no more explosions. You know I'm lying. Come on, you knew it wasn't going to be that easy. There's one more opponent left, and this one's a doozy.
Rising from the sewers of Hong Kong in a blaze of fire and fury, seeking revenge on the one who killed his son Sweet Tooth, fueled by grief, consumed with rage, driving a big-ass ice cream truck, it's none other than Dark Tooth.
You guys remember Needles Kane's father from the first game, right? Charlie Kane? Drove a taxi cab named Yellow Jacket? Had a hook for a hand? No? That's okay. Honestly, we don't know for sure if this is supposed to be the same Charlie, but either way, he is upset and he is here to avenge his son. The vehicle is a supersized version of Needles' ice cream truck, and it's big as hell. Engine real big, tires real big, guns real big.
Everything real big.
Mounted on top of the vehicle is a massive, grotesque clown head, grinning ear to ear with flames pouring from its scalp. It's absurd, it's menacing, it's unmistakably Twisted Metal. He fires napalm cone missiles as his primary weapon, tearing through even tanky vehicles like Minion in seconds. Smaller cars like Mr. Grimm, he can crush them just by running them over. And for a machine that massive, he's shockingly nimble, pulling tight turns and 360 spins with ease. Darktooth is an unstoppable tank that outclasses every vehicle in the game. But you know, he's not like unbeatable or anything. With a little bit of determination, we can take him down. It's a tough fight, don't get me wrong, but he's not invincible. After taking Darktooth down, we've officially won the Wait, what's that say? Inside the giant head, you see the shriveled figure of an old man? Huh? Supposedly, this is where he's been controlling the truck the whole time, just sitting inside this massive burning head. And honestly, yeah, makes sense. I mean, this is Twisted Metal. The fight itself isn't much of a challenge, it's just a giant head after all. But once it's over, that's it. We've officially won the Twisted Metal tournament. And you know what that means. Time to face Calypso and claim our prize.
Axel stood before me and asked me for the one prize he wanted more than anything. The strength to face his father, who had bound him in this hellish contraption over 30 years ago.
Why have you come back? I thought I'd gotten rid of you.
Father, please, release me.
You were always too slow, too damn stupid, and you still are. Gonna take 10 more years on the wheels to set you right. You need to be taught a lesson.
No, Father, I've learned my lesson.
Let me show you what I've learned. Oh my God. Oh no. Oh my God.
I am a free man, and you are no longer my father.
Axel disappeared into the Kansas fields. To this day, he has yet to be seen. Oh, I am Calypso, and I thank you for playing Twisted Metal.
Axel's ending stands apart from the rest of the casts. In a game built on cruel twists and ironic punishments, his story stands with a weight you don't expect. It's not about revenge, greed, or destruction. It's about something far more personal. Liberation, healing. But to put that into perspective, let's watch another ending for comparison.
Hammerhead raced across the rooftops of New York. Inside, Mike and Stu, the drivers of the truck, were salivating.
Yahoo! We're here, man! We made it, bro! Little beaches, babes, farm animals, Hawaii's in our grass, bro! Yes!
What can I do for you, gentlemen?
We won the game, right? So you gotta give us our prize. Well, we want... No, dude. Say demand. Okay. We demand that you give us the ability to fly.
Certainly.
That is so cool.
Congratulations. I have granted your wish. Have a great time in the friendly skies.
Let's go! Wow! Hey, man, this can't be right.
Good thing these first-class tickets are refundable.
Oh my God, I can't believe it.
Now that's what you expect from a Twisted Metal finale. Absurd, dark, pure monkey's paw chaos. And I love it. It's ridiculous in all the right ways. It's the perfect blend of dark humor and cartoonish violence that makes you laugh even while you're shaking your head thinking, yep, that's messed up. Now compare that to Axel. Here's a man who doesn't ask for power, fame, or even freedom outright. He asks for the strength to face his father, the man who imprisoned him in this machine. What follows isn't a punchline, it's a confrontation. It's emotional, messy, and instead of ending with a cruel twist, it ends on genuine catharsis. It's one of those moments where Twisted Metal strips away the spectacle and, for just a second, feels human. And that's it. If you've never played Twisted Metal 2, then you should. You really should. Even if you skip the rest of the series, this is the one you have to experience. It's my favorite, and I'd argue the best the franchise has to offer. It's on the PlayStation Store, so if you've got a PlayStation, go ahead and give it a spin. And if you don't, hit them high C's, man. Stop playing around. So, go play the game and have yourself a good time.